Brilliant. I've got one last question, but I'm going to bring our other two speakers into this as well to answer this question after you, Fabio. Given the current state of the world, sort of if you were a prophet, I guess, in the next 12 to 18 months, where do you see WP Engine going? And obviously for our other speakers, where do you see your businesses going? And what impact will this have on your current and future clients?
Yeah. Actually, we've got a lot of investment at the moment. So a lot of investment into R&D. We're doubling the investment into R&D, and WordPress itself continues to develop and change. Whether it was Gutenberg that came a while ago, we continue to build a whole bunch of tools around Gutenberg. But headless is a big thing for us as well. So without going into horrendous technicalities, headless is about decoupling WordPress at the back end and what you're delivering for people to be able to see at the front end. And yeah, we've got a whole team actually working aggressively on building a nice headless stack for our agency partners and so on as well. So yeah, you'll see a lot more coming from us in terms of mainly on the product side.
And for anyone who's not heard of headless or might be considering it, what would be the best use case for it? Why is headless an important future tech?
Yeah, because digital experience is just not the website now. Website's obviously a key part of it, but you've also got mobile applications, and you've also got that website and the central source of all your content, which just needs to talk to a whole bunch of different systems or be displayed for different elements now. So that's something which headless can do very well. It just gives you actually sometimes a faster, better performant website, but ability to actually talk to different systems and different tools.
Real, but not the answer to everything either, right?
Definitely. No, I think the majority of the companies won't be utilising headless, because of course creates complexity for you as well.
Yeah, of course. Gareth, where would you say you see Liberty going, and what impact will that have?
It's at the moment, the last few months have been the craziest time I've known in 20 years of doing this stuff, and it's kind of like coming thick and fast in all areas, good and bad. So it's like we're seeing that digital budgets are growing for most businesses. So a mixture of businesses similar to what Fabio mentioned earlier, businesses that didn't take digital seriously before have now had a taste of it, and they're planning to go forward and do a lot more digital marketing and spend more on things like Google Ads. But then there's also businesses that have got market share who want to protect that. So the sort of the outcome of all that is it's going to get a lot more competitive. It's going to get a lot more expensive. It's going to take longer to rank at the top of Google. You're going to have to pay more for clicks. But then at the same time, right now, we're seeing traffic costs are really cheap. We've just started a financial services client of ours who paused at the very start of lockdown. We're now sort of dipping our toe back in with them, and we're seeing traffic costs about a third of what they were. But so it's like now's a great time to get in on this. But a lot of the people we're speaking to are marketers that have either been furloughed, or unfortunately there's a lot being made redundant now. So it's kind of like there's like great opportunity now, but a lot of people can't react to it. There's going to be a lot of opportunities long term, like a bigger market online, but way more competition. So I don't know, and it's going to be interesting to see the whole in-house versus agency split. So I think we've been working closer with internal marketers for a long time and being a little bit more strategic, but I think we're going to become a bit more overflow for just day-to-day services as well. So I think digital agencies like us have actually, it's going to be a good time for us to grow.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It makes perfect sense. And yeah, even on our side, we've seen our PPC costs go down by about half, which is obviously great. There seems to be a lot less in the market there, and I would almost have been expecting more competition because more people were needing work. But it seems, I don't know whether it's that a lot of people have just turned their PPC off, and that's made it easier for people who still got it on. Nick, same question to you. Where do you see Storm and Shelter going, and what impact will that have on clients?
Well, for us, I mean, realistically, this period has been sort of like so Gareth was saying, it's been crazy. I mean, for us, on the content side of things, people need to obviously communicate the fact that COVID is a thing, and that there've been certain things where people have had to change the way they work, and that means communicating that to people. And as we've spoken about, like the best way of educating people on anything is just using video content for that. So I think it was pretty much, the day of lockdown, I think we had like maybe 1 out of 15 projects actually get put on hold. Everything else was just ticking over as normal. And we had, again, maybe I think it was like day 2 or 3, a bunch of new inquiries coming in going, oh my God, our process has changed. Like people need to know how to do XYZ now. We need to do a video to get it out there to help people understand what's changed. So we ended up getting quite a few projects in through that, which was great. We've actually been working with Cardiff University to help with their open day, because obviously open days aren't a thing because of social distancing, COVID, etc., etc. So we've been working with those guys to help redefine what their open days really are. So we've actually been making tons of content for them using their lecturers. That was an interesting one in terms of helping people to understand how to self-shoot stuff, in terms of how to be able to record themselves and then how to get good lighting and all this kind of stuff. And there's some interesting stuff to learn. But again, through that, we've developed a handbook for people to be able to shoot their own stuff now. And we've learned a lot through doing that. And more and more, we've just had more and more of our clients go, great, well, we need to do more video content. I think we reached out to one of our clients who we knew that their internal team is relatively small in terms of they've got an in-house capability to create content, but it's relatively small. And they were positioned to basically like take a full advantage, like their product, again, like we're kind of talking about the Amplify stuff in particular, music making apps. Like, people were at home on their butt looking for something to do, make music. Like it's a really accessible app that people can just pick up and start playing around with. And that wasn't being taken advantage of enough. So we kind of just stepped in, was like, look, let's do X, Y, Z. This is the kind of stuff would be great to get it out there, to get people engaging, because they just sat around looking for stuff to do now. So then pumping out that kind of content was great, because then it actually had a ton of people sign up for it and download it because of that. And again, we're basically moving forward is just, in a way, it's business as usual. We're starting to now pick up shooting again. There are like guidelines in terms of how to conduct shoots safely. So we've done a couple of those already, with social distancing and PPE and all that jazz. That was obviously an interesting start to the whole situation. But moving forward now, there's more and more confidence in the market overall to go, okay, cool. Like, let's actually move forward with getting shoots done again, because we can be a lot more sort of knowledgeable about how we do it safely. Because that's the main thing. People have got to be comfortable with doing it. And I think that's, it's taking time ultimately for people to feel comfortable with, having their employees, on site or having someone else there filming them, or maybe even at home. We've been to people's homes to shoot this kind of stuff. So I think, more and more it's getting back to where it was in terms of the filming stuff, but the animation stuff has just been crazy for us because it's just stuff we can do remotely. But I think in terms of the biggest lasting change for us is pretty much how we actually operate from an office level. Do we all need to be here all the time? What's the point of the office? We've got editing suites, coloring suites, which are definitely needing to be used on certain projects. We all work off a central server and all that jazz. But again, there's other stuff, the research side of stuff, the idea gen side of stuff, that doesn't necessarily need to be done in person. And I think everyone is going to take an element of that moving forward, because everyone's experience has been kind of similar but slightly different. But I think we were quite well positioned. We were doing a lot of that kind of stuff before this anyway, so it just strengthened it. But I think, that's going to be the lasting change for us, is just working a little bit differently, but still being able to service clients as well, if not better, to be honest, than we did before.
And similar to a lot of brands and agencies and alike, and Gareth included, you guys both just doubled your office space not too long before all of this. So it's an interesting question to sort of be asking, isn't it? I won't delve too much into that now, because we're talking about marketing, but I thought I'd make the point nonetheless. But on your previous point then, Nick, I think it's the brands that will grasp the opportunity that this brings right now, that they're the ones that will win, rather than sitting around wondering what to do. Like reaching out to your agency, reaching out to your supplier and saying, what should we do differently? Because ultimately an agency is there for thought leadership, right, as much as it is for practically delivering something. And I do think, you know, too many people go to an agency to just tell them what to do rather than ask them what's best to do. Yeah, I think on similar lines to that, and I'll start with you on this one, Gareth. That there are so many agencies out there offering digital marketing services. It's a minefield for customers, knowing like who to choose, who to trust. What would be your key piece of a sort of independent advice for us to look out for in a suitable agency?
Oh man, this feels like a trap. This feels like
Can you be independent on that?
no. I set up my agency because I had had enough of agencies and I hated them, and I'd had my fingers burnt, and I decided to try and do it better. So it's like you're asking someone here, you're lining up the almighty rant. I think there's God, how to try and be independent with this. Look, I honestly, it's about the passion as much as anything else, and it's like how decent those people are to work with. You know, we're fortunate that most of our clients have been with us for years, but you know, quite often the results we're getting them, they could get in other agencies. They choose to work with us because they get on with the team and they know, you know, we're in it for the right reasons. I think, yeah, there's quite a few agencies that have been sort of set up by people who are in it to make a quick buck, which I always find incredibly ironic considering how pathetic our profit margins are most of the time. So it's just, you know, go to an agency that has got marketers there who are proud of the work they do and they like showing it off, and that, you know, if every time you give them a pat on the head for doing a good job, they're really going to smile over it. Because if they're not in it for that, you're always going to struggle, I think, working with them.
Brilliant. And Fabio, your perspective is probably slightly different, I guess, because you are coming from the brand itself, really. You're the one hiring the agencies or hiring the team in-house. So, yeah, what would you say to that independent advice to get a suitable agency?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I always used to like working with agencies rather than, obviously I had in-house teams as well, but working with agencies really add a lot of value because they've got a wider perspective. You know, they're working with multiple different companies. So you've got to look at their experience really, because, you know, different projects they've done, that wider experience they've got, they can utilize that experience and bring it to yourself to add that value which you need to make sure that your campaign or your project is successful. But, you know, to kind of repeat what Gareth said to a certain extent, you've got to enjoy working with them as well. You know, if they don't have the right passion, they don't have the right energy, you don't click from a cultural perspective, you're never really going to have that right relationship, and the relationship is key. So yeah, definitely experience, what they've done, but relationship's key as well.
Absolutely. Nick, I've got a cracking question here. A couple of questions that have come in from someone for you. What is the most embarrassing video you've ever had to produce, and what is your all-time favorite?
Embarrassing. I couldn't even think about an embarrassing video. I think we've definitely.
There's got to be one there in 452 projects. There's got to be one embarrassing one at least.
Oh, well, I would say probably the most embarrassing one was before we actually started the company. I think it was one of our very first jobs where myself and two other founders started doing this project, and we were like, oh, cool, they want to do a webinar. Well, webinars are easy enough. Surely point the camera, get it done. Yeah, no problem. Happy days. You know, in our relative infancy, and very looking forward to getting it done. And yeah, nothing will stop us. Decided to do the whole webinar using a boom mic, which obviously the very long boom mic, and it lasted for 2.5 hours. And I remember we were sort of like at times holding it, and it was dipping in a little bit, and we were just like, oh no. And obviously streaming the whole thing as well. We decided, didn't really do much research, to be entirely honest, at that point in time. Again, naivety in terms of that streaming, and ended up doing a screen capture from a live stream from the back of the camera. Honestly, thinking about it now makes my skin crawl. I would probably say that's probably the most embarrassing moment. I mean, I honestly don't know how we pulled it off, and they loved it. But still, I mean, looking back on it personally, I'm embarrassed to even say that it happened at all. But there we go, dredging up some awful pasts. But I would say in terms of the other one, in terms of my favorite.
Yeah.
I would say probably the latest stuff we've done for Twitter was probably some of my favorite stuff. I mean, Twitter as a client has just been really interesting because they kind of just go, cool, man, what do you think? And it's like one of the biggest times where we've had like such a, you know, a large client with a substantial budget for Playroom to actually start thinking really outside the box with stuff. And we worked in collaboration with an agency in London on that. And it was basically all about dating for Valentine's Day and how people sort of talk about dating and dating failures on Twitter and share like disastrous stuff. And it was featuring Phil Wang, a comedian. And like looking back on it, you know, we had like it was really awful green screen, rubbish backgrounds, like on purpose. It was a stylistic decision to have like really rubbish Shutterstock backgrounds, badly comped stuff. He was on a horse. There was like a 3D horse at one point. But yeah, I mean, looking back on that, and you just kind of go, Jesus Christ, we got paid for that? Like we did that, and like people liked it. I think it like 7.5 million views or whatever, and we're just like, wow, okay, cool. And I think that was it's projects like that for me that kind of like, you know, milestone projects along the way that you just look back on and go, wow, like that's crazy to think that we were doing this coming from literally like doing a really rubbish job of a webinar in 2013 to now literally making this kind of stuff that is really fun. I'm working really closely with the creative directors at Twitter to push out this piece of content. I think that was probably like my favorite piece that we've done, but for like so many reasons. But yeah, that one is great. It's the Dating Twitter Advice Bureau video. So
Incredible.
Yeah, give it a watch because it's something else.
Brill, thanks, mate. I've just got a couple of questions left. This one, I'm going to start with Fabio on this one. Pretty quick question that's coming from someone. How would you order the priority of digital marketing, video, website, CMS selection? You know, we can't afford to do it all at once, understandably. So you know, what's the set process to follow that works?
Yeah, fair enough. Difficult question. Well, I think CMS and website are probably hand in hand. You know, you probably don't want to rule one out. You know, you need the website before you can start doing marketing. In my book, because the website is essential. It's generally where you're sending a lot of your marketing to. So before the website, if you're going to take a step back, is know your positioning, know your messaging, know who you want to target. And that's number one. Once you've got that fixed and sorted out, then of course your first go-to-market effort has to be the website. And generally, if you want to be able to keep your website up to date and be able to produce content, you're going to have a good CMS system. So I wouldn't exclude the CMS from the website. I think they go hand in hand. Then, awesome. No offense, then the marketing.
Great. Would you echo that, Gareth?
Yeah, but I think the marketing should probably bookend it. So before you pay to put a website together, you need to know what pages you should have. You need to know which keywords you should be targeting. So therefore, you should probably start off with a little bit of SEO research. Before you put your blog together, you need to know what content to put on it. So therefore, a bit of content research, a bit of a content calendar, review what's working for competitors in your marketplace is good. So I'd say it's worth investing in a bit of auditing and a bit of strategy. And a bit of planning, then spending your money on a website, getting it all working. And then I'd probably say don't jump straight into your SEO and content. I'd probably test out a bit of PPC, figure out exactly what works in your market, what messages work, what people come through and convert, you know, the cost per conversion and things, and then look to spend every penny you can get your hands on things like video and PPC and blogs and make people like me and Nick rich.
Yeah, I think I would echo that as well. You know, there's nothing worse, you know, from an Illustrate Digital perspective than us building, you know, a brilliant site on a great platform, only for then a marketing agency to submit a plan that changes everything we've come up with so far. So yeah, we try where possible to give the advice of go and speak to your marketing agency first, or thrash it out with your marketing department first. Then we know what we're building. Then you know it can be successful on the back of that. Yeah, one last question for each of you guys. Yeah, this says you made a good point at the outset about Wales being a good area for growth, both from a tech and marketing perspective. What would be your top piece of advice for startups, scale-ups, and established companies around Wales for 2020 and beyond? I'll start with Nick.
So I'd say from a content perspective, I would say just be brave about it, like trial and error, like try some stuff out. I think that you know, really well positioned at the moment that people are just generally consuming more and more content, tend to be, because no one's over their shoulder looking what they're doing, probably sat on socials a little bit more, or even on LinkedIn, pretending like it's sort of like work, but sort of not at the same time. Actually putting content out on that kind of stuff, pushing the thought leadership side of stuff. Even as a new brand, like I hate the whole disruptive thing, but at the same time, if you know that there are, other companies in that space out there, even locally, for instance, that aren't doing that kind of stuff, that have been sort of sat on their laurels for a long time, sort of just sitting on whatever they're doing, like getting out there and showing that this stuff is really easy to do, that there is knowledge out there, and you're sort of putting it out there that people aren't doing it, then, if I was you, like that's a great place to start. But yeah, just being brave with just making stuff, and like reaching out to people who can, if you've got customers out there that are happy to do some testimonial stuff, even that kind of thing. And I think what, Fabio touched upon earlier on was think about video not just as a deliverable, but something that you can work into your sort of customer engagement side of stuff as well. Like, yeah, you say about Vidyard, like we use Soapbox for that kind of stuff as well. Like they're free to use. And I think stuff like that and sort of, using that will humanize the brand a lot more. And I think, especially when people are nervous about where they're spending their money at the moment, being able to make that connection and build that trust is definitely where I would say that's worth putting your focus in.
That's great. So Nick, do you mean to say that not all of our employees are 100% focused all of the time during the day on what they've got to do?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty bad for that as well. So,
Fabio, I'm going to throw that question over to you. What's your top piece of advice?
Well, I think a network. You need a good network around you as well. So, there's plenty of other companies and startups near you that have done it before, know the industry, can give you some really good advice. So don't try doing it all by yourself. Make sure you create a good network and speak to other people around you and get help.
Amazing, thanks. And Gareth?
Yeah, I mean, something different, but just something that's quite prevalent right now for me is exporting. So I think we're working right now with a fintech and a medtech business, both of which we're now doing European advertising and European marketing for, and both of them wish they'd done it way sooner. I think this is quite key to Welsh businesses because Welsh government are really up for supporting any Welsh businesses that can export. You can get advice and you can get help and you can get, training and things there. And Google at the moment are also big on it. So it's like if you are up for exporting, you can get support from them, in a variety of ways. So if you're a Welsh business and you can create stuff that can go around the world, now is a really good time to look at that.
That's really good. I think some great answers there. Yeah. Thank you so much, Fabio, Nick, Gareth, for your time. I know we're all super busy at the moment, so I really am thankful for your time on this webinar today. Obviously, thank you as well to everyone tuning in or watching afterwards, and a massive thank you to Wales Tech Week and Technology Connected as well for putting this whole week on. Yeah, just as a quick reminder, if anyone wants any follow-ups, anyone wants any connections within any of these businesses that we've been chatting through today, just go to illustrate.digital/WTW, submit your question, submit a query, whatever you've got, and yeah, we'll be more than happy to help afterwards. Yeah, thank you everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Scott. Bye.